All right, so for this demo, we're going to do a couple things. First, we want to create a new GitHub repo. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to name this Lect6 Heroku, and I'm going to make this in my personal one. So the name of my account is SureshCS490. Make sure you're using your personal, not your NJIT one. You can make it public or private. I'm just going to do it for public for now. And then I'm going to create this repository. Don't close out of this. We're going to need this in just a second. So in the meantime, we are going to want to do a couple things. So firstly, we want to cd into environment. Okay. Then we want to run this. And keep in mind that I'm just copying and pasting so that I avoid making typos or anything like that. And I'm going to close this just so that we have a little bit of extra room. Okay. And then I'm going to cd into Lect6 Heroku. So since we cloned this, we're going to have a new directory here. And then we want to set this. Okay, so I'll explain what this step does in just a second after I type it. So see how it says your username here? You're going to replace this with your username. Okay, so now if I do a git remote, I'm not going to do that actually. Let's just go ahead and do a git push origin master. So if we look here, there's no code in Lect6 Heroku, but now we're going to do a git push origin master. It's going to ask for your username. So again, get your username ready. Okay, it's asking for all of that. Looks good, and then let's refresh this and we're good to go. This populates a lot of the code that we already had. So now let me go back and explain what this set URL does. So the set URL basically says we pulled some code. So git clone means that I'm taking this code from Lect6 Heroku, someone else's code, I'm taking it. And then git remote set URL origin says I don't want to commit code. I don't want to make changes to this person's repo. I'm actually not allowed to make changes to this person's repo. So just set the URL to something else. So I'm going to set it to my own repo, the one that I'm allowed to make changes to, the one that I want to make changes to. So set URL is just going to say, instead of making changes to this repo, which I'm not allowed to do, set it to this URL, which I am allowed to do. And now if you do a git push origin master, it will work. And as you can see, it did work. We're actually able to push things the way that we would expect. So let's go to the next step. So that is open the README in Lect6 Heroku. So I'm going to open up this Lect6 Heroku, and I'm going to open up this README. Okay, so most of this code was shamelessly taken by Banernel's Homework 5 submission. That's awesome. That's good to know. Thanks for letting me clone the code and use it for myself. This is a simple demo of Heroku using the Twitter API. So in order to use this repo, we need to follow the following steps. So firstly, we want to go to developer.twitter.com, sign up for an account. So I'm already signed in, and you can check if you're signed in by just going to twitter.com. So I'm already signed in. And you can also see if you're you can go to Twitter on here as well. Next, you want to navigate to projects and apps. Okay. Then click on the key symbol after creating your project. So if you already have a project from Homework 5, then that's totally fine. And if you have one for Project 1, same thing, totally fine. You can use either one for this demo. So let's click on the key symbol. And then we need to find our keys and tokens. So we're going to view our keys here. And if you need to, you can regenerate access tokens here. So you can view keys here and then regenerate here, or you can just use the ones from before. If you already have keys, use the ones from before. It's just going to be a lot faster for you. Okay, so now it says run the following in your terminal. Sudo pip install tweepy. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. It says pip command not found. So what I'm going to do is type in which pip as usual. I'm going to copy and paste this, and instead of doing sudo pip, I'm going to do sudo that path install tweepy. Great. And now the next one, it says install Flask the same way. And then lastly, install python.env. Awesome. Looks like I have all of those, so that's good to go. Now let's figure out what we have to do next. We have to add our secret keys from step 2 by making a new root level file called tweepy.env and populating it as follows. So we need key, key secret, token, and token secret. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new root level directory. So I'm going to right click on lect6 Heroku, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call that tweepy.env. Is that right? Yeah, it says tweepy.env. And then inside of here, I'm going to copy and paste these. And now I'm going to fill in these keys, the key secret, token, and token secret. Okay, so now that I have gotten that up and running, so my tweepy.env has all the files that I need. Now I'm just going to run python user tweets.py. And then if on Cloud9, which we are, preview templates in index.html. Okay, I'm going to open up index.html, preview running application. Amazing. So this is someone else's work, and she has basically made this template for homework 5. It's really, really pretty. It takes in Taylor Swift's name and displays her tweets. Great. What's next? So we have this local thing running. We've been able to render the HTML. This is great. If it's not working, you might have had an error in how you put your things into tweepy.env. So double check on that, but that's probably what's going on. So now we want to sign up for Heroku at heroku.com. So I'm going to sign up for Heroku here. So now that we're done with Twitter, I'm just going to close that. And you want to make sure you're signed up for Heroku, which, you know, if you're logged in, you should be able to do that. Okay. Install Heroku by running npm install -g Heroku. So I'm going to open a new terminal, and I'm going to run this. So this is going to take quite a while. This might take up to 2 minutes. Heroku is a big package. So let's go ahead and for now, let's just see what happens when we install Heroku. Mine installed in 12 seconds, obviously because I already have Heroku, but it might take you a little bit of time before you can actually do that. So let's go to Heroku in the meantime. And then I guess we don't want to do the other steps yet. We'll work on that stuff in just a second. So skip over step 12 right now. This step 12 should actually probably be closer to, let's try going to this should probably be step 14.5. And then I'll make that adjustment so that you don't have any issues with that when you're downloading this as well, when you're cloning this. So once we've been able to do this, we should make a new Git repository. We have a new Git repository and go through the following steps. Okay. So we've already done the branch and the remote add stuff. So we've already done that. So I'm going to take that out again. And now we should go into our lect6 Heroku. So cd into lekt6 Heroku. And then we want to do git branch -M master. And I'm just going to copy and paste these lines of code. Okay. So now I'm going to get my GitHub up and running again. So you can do this in parallel while in a new tab while Heroku is installing. That's what I would recommend doing, just so that you can multitask, basically. Okay, so we did a git push, and so we did a git branch and a git push. Oh yeah, before we do that, we have to do a git status. Let's double check what we have here. We have our README, and that's the only change we made. So there's nothing else that we have to push right now. So right now we're just hanging tight while Heroku is installing. And at this point your Heroku should be installed. So let's go ahead and do a git push Heroku master. Looks like Heroku does not appear to be a Git repository. Okay. The reason behind this is that we actually have to do Heroku login-i. So we're going to log into Heroku, and I'm going to get that password as well. And great, now we're logged in. Now we actually have to do Heroku create. So this is a new thing where we have to actually create a new thing. So before we do this stuff, we have to do a few different steps. We want to go ahead and we don't really have to do any of that. We're going to do Heroku login-i and then Heroku create. And what this is going to do is it's going to create you're going to log into Heroku using the account that you just created, and it's going to create a new app for you to fill in using Heroku. So my app's username is this thing, pacificplains86015.herokuapp.com. This says, welcome to your new app. If you need any help deploying, you can read this documentation, which I highly recommend, but you don't need to worry about that right now. Now what we have to do is after we do the Heroku create, we're going to do a git push Heroku master. So I'm going to go ahead and take this command and run it here. And this is going to take quite a while. What this is doing is basically taking our Git repository and it's pushing all of our changes into Heroku. So remember again that this is a local thing. You can't actually see this website or share it to anyone, but Heroku will let us actually send this website to other people. So this is taking a while. It's now deployed to Heroku, it says. So now if we go here, it says application error. And the reason we're seeing an application error is because we don't have our secret keys enabled. So remember this env file? We didn't push that to GitHub. So we actually have to add that to GitHub. And the way that you're going to do that is step 14.5. So you want to add your secret keys, the ones in your twilio.env file. Or tweepy.env file, sorry. By going to this. So we want to go to this link. And then you want to click on the app that you just created. And then you go down to settings, or you click on settings rather. Then you scroll down to config vars. So you want to reveal your config vars. And now you just want to put in your keys. So these have to be the right names. So you want key here, key secret. And if you don't want to type them in, just copy and paste them to avoid any typos. Great. So now you have to go and click on this pencil and actually fill in these values. All right, so now I've finished putting in my config vars. And one quick note is that you don't actually need to be able to put strings or anything like that. You just put the plain text value in there. And none of that is going to be revealed to anyone. So again, you don't need like the string quotation marks that you had in your env file. You just put the raw value of them. So now that I've put that, let's go see what the next step is. And that's it. At this point, we should just be able to take our link. So let's go find our link again. So this herokuapp.com. And then once this is saved, and there is no saving here, it should just work. Okay, so now as you can see, I've set my token secret, my token, my key secret, and my key. So let's go back and see what the next step is. Looks like we want to configure our requirements.txt with all requirements needed to run our app. So what does that mean? Let's open up our requirements.txt. This file should contain all required packages and technologies that the app needs to run correctly. Heroku will parse this file to determine what packages and libraries it needs to install. Okay, so now we actually have to read through our code. So let's open up user-tweets.py and figure out what we actually use. So we use Tweepy. So let's go ahead and add Tweepy to this. We use OS, datetime. So after you use requirements.txt for a while, you'll be able to figure out which ones come default. So OS and datetime are both built into Python, so you don't have to worry too much about those. Let's just worry about Flask for now. So Flask, we're going to type into here, and .env. So requirements.txt is a little weird. You have to type them in very different ways than you normally would. So like in Python, we had lowercase Flask, but you need uppercase Flask in requirements.txt. Similarly, you need python-.env in requirements.txt, whereas you only need .env when you're running Python. I don't see anything else we need in our Python. We're not really doing anything else besides just Python. So I think this tweepy, Flask, and python.env is all we need. Let's check what our next step in our README is. So we've configured our requirements.txt. Now we have to configure our proc file with the command needed to run our app. So I opened up our proc file, and it says this file will contain instructions on how to run the app. The proper syntax in this file will be a line that says what type of app. So in our case, it's going to be a web app, followed by the command line instructions on how to run the app with all the necessary parameters. So we want to type web : space, and then let's go find the command that we actually ran. So if I get this, it's just going to be python user tweets.py. So let's go ahead and add that in there. Okay. And now let's do a git status, see what changes we made. We made a change to our Python or to our proc file and requirements.txt. So I'm gonna add both of those. Now if I do a git status, it's ready to be committed. So now I'm just going to make a commit here. So that's just going to be git commit -m add necessary Heroku files. And then now if I do a git status, I should see that it's ahead by one commit. That was the commit we just made. So now I'm just going to do a git push. Okay, so I'm going to do first I'm going to do a git pull origin master. Then I'm going to do a git push origin master. And again, I'm going to use my GitHub username or email address. And I'm just going to take that and copy that over here. Great, and now I've been able to push it. Now, the second step we have to do is do a git push Heroku master. And git push Heroku master is going to take our git changes and it's going to push them onto Heroku. So it's saying requirements file has been changed. So if I'm just reading through this, it's saying it's going to clear the cache. It's installing the things that we put in there. So if we scroll up, we're going to see Tweepy, we're going to see Flask, python.env. These are requirements that we said it needs. Now it's compressing, it's done, and now it's launching. So now we should be able to open that app. And voila, there's our Heroku app. So now if I take this URL, and let's say I just open it in incognito mode. So I'm going to take that app again, copy and paste the URL, and open it in incognito. So now I'm not logged in, I don't have any tokens or anything like that, but the Heroku app still works. This is an actual URL, this is an actual website that you can share with anyone you want. And to prove it, we're actually going to take one student's URL, we're going to share it in the Zoom chat. So feel free to share your URL in the Zoom chat now, and other students should be able to go to that URL as well. You should also be able to go to this URL and it should work as well. Now keep in mind that Heroku is really, really good and it's really, really free for anything that you need for, class projects or anything like that. Heroku does have a decent amount of uptime, so it's not always warm or anything like that. So the first time you ping Heroku that website in a long time, it might take many seconds to run or something like that. However, we will be using Heroku for deployment in this class so that you can actually share your Heroku URL.